Alright then, welcome everyone to Creative Assembly's Portfolio Review livestream. My name is Naomi Biro. I'm the lead character artist on Total War Warhammer project. Joining me today here is my super talented colleague Josh.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Josh. I'm a senior character artist also on the Warhammer team.
Today we'll be covering character art portfolios. We got a lot of awesome submissions and we'll do our best to get through as many as we can, but sadly we won't be able to cover all of them in this session because there were just way too many. I would also like to mention at this point that we have received some really awesome concept art portfolios. We will not be reviewing any 2D art in this session. However, we will be holding a separate dedicated concept art portfolio review live stream in the future, so make sure to join us then. Well, with that said, let's get started.
So should we just jump straight in?
Yes, absolutely. Do you wish to start?
Okay. So first thoughts, I guess, from just looking at the portfolio, from what I see so far, I really like it. I think the stuff in here, or at least the finished work, is all very nicely lit and presented, nice thumbnails and stuff. So good start there. I think that looks really good.
Yeah.
The one thing I would say though is I think the work in progress stands out a lot. And I think probably I'm not personally, I wouldn't advise putting work in progress stuff in your portfolio. And I think in this lineup, to me, it does kind of stand out like a sore thumb compared to the
Finished.
the polished, finished pieces and stuff. So I would advise against putting whips in your portfolio, especially if you're applying for places. It's hard for people to judge. Like what is just unfinished and what is actually just stuff that maybe you didn't do so well, I guess. So
exactly. Sorry.
Got to be very careful about that. Sorry, no, I'm done. Please.
No, I wanted to say exactly. I agree with everything that you're saying. That when I first opened this portfolio, I was like, "Oh, these are really nice pieces." And then when I saw the works in progress, I was like, "Is that finished? Is that going to be finished?" But I didn't know at the time that it was works in progress because it's not even labeled as such. So if you wish to include works in progress, definitely at least label it really strongly that this is a work in progress.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you will be judged on the first impression.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I suppose I think as artists our eyes are always going to like kind of go towards what looks off. So I suppose minimize that by just not showing anything that is not representative of your like skill when it comes to finished stuff. I know I'm guilty of this sort of stuff as well, but like posting work in progress is in my portfolio. But I suppose if you're going to treat ArtStation as a portfolio that you're going to send out to potential hirers, I would be careful of that sort of stuff. Should we jump into one of the projects, or have you got any more you'd like to say?
No, yes, absolutely. Let's jump in. Do you have any preferences?
Let's go to the work in progress one, just because I did have a little bit more. I think looking at that,
the torso or the demon?
The most recent one.
The most
the bald head guy.
Bald head guy, yes. It takes a little second until it loads.
Yes.
Yep, there we go.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I'd say I think what's confusing to me about this as a work in progress is I'm not sure whether the face is done or whether like because obviously it's got this kind of textured finish on it. I'm not sure whether you plan on doing more to the face sculpting wise and have just maybe jumped ahead to the kind of like material shader stages, or whether you plan to resculpt it. But what I would say is the head at the moment looks quite, I suppose, kind of plain and simple and CGI. Like it's very like smooth and perfect. And I can see here that it's meant to be based on Jin from Samurai Champloo. So that kind of, I suppose that brings me on to one thing that I did want to, that I thought would be worth talking about is, I think it's obviously a great idea to be basing your character off existing concepts and stuff. But if you're trying to make a realistic version of something, like from an anime, I think there's no reason why you can't try and bring as much of that character and personality from the character into your realistic design. So if I look at Jin from Samurai Champloo, he's got like a very narrow head, like very angular features, like very furrowed, thin eyebrows. And I think a lot of that is just not there in the model. And what we're left with is kind of a generic head.
Mm-hmm.
So even when this character's finished, it might look really good, but like as just a realistic kind of samurai guy. But I don't think it's really going to have any of that character. I don't think people are going to be like, oh, look, that's Jin. And it seems a shame to me. Like, I don't think a realistic interpretation means that you have to remove all of that kind of personality. You can still push things quite a lot. You know, even if you just look at the differences and variations of real human facial features and stuff, you know, the amount of kind of deviation you can have in facial features. You could have quite a harsh, angular looking, thin, long face with really furrowed brow. I think it would look really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that there's any reason why you couldn't do that on a realistic character.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I think that's mostly what I wanted to jump into there. But then again, I'm not sure, you know, how far necessarily you want to take it with this head, or whether the head's maybe a more finished piece. This is the problem that I'm saying with the work in progress pieces. I don't really know. I don't know what you finished and what you haven't. So it's hard for me to say, to be honest.
Yeah, it's hard to judge, definitely. So for me too, the first time I looked at this, I thought that this was finished. I didn't even realize that it was work in progress for quite some time, because the skin texture looks nearly finished. I mean, it looks really nice. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Really
it's very good. That's the thing. The kind of it's a really nice job with the shader and material definition for the skin, but then maybe falls flat with maybe just a bit too much of a plain and generic looking head.
Exactly.
Perhaps. So that's where the kind of you start to get into that uncanny valley territory, I think. You know?
Exactly.
Oh, it's just a little bit removed from looking like something realistic, I suppose.
Also, I would like to mention before we move on that the cloth, basically in Marvel's designer, it's really well made. So I really like how the folds are coming. Perhaps a little bit too much around here in the midsection area where it would be a little bit smoother, but everything else, the drape and everything looks really nice.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Yeah, the cloth looks really good. I would also possibly be careful about the opening on the sleeves. It looks very like flat and then really long. So consider what that's going to look like when you've posed your character, and how I suppose that's only really going to work if his hand is kind of up and it's draped down or something. It's a real challenge. It's something that I've had to do in the past with characters. It's always kind of challenging to have as a workaround. Also, I would consider where the folds will compress when the arm bends. A good kind of shortcut for this is when you pose your characters, when you've got them in a T pose or an A pose, to have the elbows bent slightly. Unless you're working from an existing rig. If it's a new kind of rig that you're making or whatever, then I would suggest having the arms bent so that when you simulate in Marvelous, it kind of folds naturally more to the curvature to the bend of the arm, and then you can like sculpt in little bits of sort of like memory fold from the compression of where they would move their arm, because Marvelous won't give you any of that. Obviously, Marvelous is only going to simulate it like as if it's like brand new fresh cloth, but you've got to add that sort of stuff in. Again, I suppose maybe it's not really worth me mentioning too much on that, because you know it's a work in progress, so maybe you are going to add all of that stuff. But hopefully, seeing as you're still working on it, at least that means maybe if you haven't done that stuff yet, you can maybe add that stuff in or give it a try if you want.
Absolutely. And I'm personally looking very much forward to seeing this one finished, because I'm a huge Samurai Champloo fan.
Yeah.
Cool. Sorry. Did you want to say something?
No, that's all I had to say on that character.
All right. Would you like to look at any other piece, like the Survivor, perhaps? Or
yeah, we can do. It's up to you on whether you think we should look at more or
Okay,
move on.
then the survivor, because it looks like a real-time character with UVs and everything.
Okay, yeah, great.
So personally, I really like the lighting in this. In some areas, it's a little bit too dark, but it's very atmospheric. So, for example, in these ones on the screen, it's very nice and atmospheric. But when we are scrolling down to this face, I can't see anything from his eyes. Everything
Yeah.
is just pretty much in shadow. So this is a bit too strong shadow.
It would have been nice, even if like, okay, maybe you have like your like kind of main shot be the dramatic stuff with the pitch black eyes. It would be nice to just see maybe a slightly differently lit piece, just so we can kind of see, you know, how you tackled the eyes and stuff. The clearest kind of shot we get is the wireframe. Really, that's the only thing where I can actually see any indication of eyes.
Exactly.
Really, but then you know you can't really see how that looks, how the shaders work, and you know, so yeah, it would have been nice to be able to kind of see that stuff. Eyes are definitely very important.
Exactly.
But yeah, presentation is fantastic, I think.
I agree. Again, super atmospheric, but half of the character is completely black. We can't see anything on it. Low poly is quite nice. I really like that you put the low poly. Many of the portfolios that we are seeing very often miss out upon the low poly. And when you're applying for a job in the games industry, low poly is one of the most important things we are looking for, because we need to see that you're able to do very low poly characters. You can always increase the poly count on a character easily, but being able to do really low poly characters and still capture detail inside of the silhouettes and so on and so forth, that's a skill we are looking for. So where possible, include low polys.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I suppose tri-count can be a contentious subject, and it will vary from studio to studio. We obviously on Total War make relatively low poly characters. You know, we're not doing the super big budget 100k AAA kind of type characters you see in some games. But I mean, for me at least, I don't necessarily expect to see that. I don't expect to see super low poly, really low poly characters, but I just want to see that you're not wasting tries. You know, you get some wireframes where things are just really kind of inconsistently distributed. Like, one thing I suppose I could point out about this is I think the boots are perhaps a little bit too high poly compared to the rest. Yeah, if you look just like compared to the bottom of the jeans, it's like it jumps up all of a sudden to quite high poly. Whereas the boots aren't necessarily a huge focal point. It's really not a huge deal. It's definitely not like anywhere near like the worst example of this kind of stuff I've seen. It's, you know, but it's yeah, generally that's more what I'm looking for. Rather than try count, I'm looking for like whether you're using tries sensibly. Yeah.
All right, then let's move on, because we have lots to go through.
Just have a question from the chat.
Yeah.
What do you recommend when designing a character? Key aspects as well to avoid when designing one. I know it's a bit of a 2D question, but I was wondering if you had any insight.
So, from my perspective, if you're only a 3D artist, then I would suggest and advise leaving the designing to 2D artists. So don't dabble in it. But if you're similar to me, also have a background in 2D art, then always readability would be, I think, on the first place for me. So a character should be able to be read from a distance as well, just as well as if it would be close to the camera.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more with all of that. I'd say definitely if you are trying to get into the industry, if you're a student or a kind of new artist trying to make your break, I think, yeah, unless you have a really strong background in 2D and concept design, just pick someone else's concept and make it. I think too many times I've seen people's kind of characters fall flat because they're perhaps a little bit weaker on the design aspect, but they kind of want to do it all. Character art in itself is such a time-consuming thing. Like, why not just get really good at that one thing? Especially if you're applying for, like, if AAA is your goal, they're gonna have specialized roles for concept arts and character art. It, you know, maybe in an indie studio where it's really small, tight-knit teams, it might be a bit different. But for the most part, you know, just focus on one thing for now. Then you can add more to your kind of skill set as you kind of develop as an artist. But if you're trying to make your break in the industry, I'd say just pick a concept and try to do it really well. Yeah.
Exactly.
Rather than so that's my answer. I can't really say anything else in terms of design and stuff apart from what you've already said. Totally agree with that.
So then our next portfolio is Jordan. I really like this one. Lots
Yeah.
of styles in it.
So this one I really like because of the aforementioned reason. This person's just picked a bunch of good concepts and tried to execute them as best as possible, and it makes for a really strong portfolio. A bunch of real-time characters. It's all like, it looks to me to be all real-time stuff. And like I had to look through these before, and it seems like they're all kind of from existing concepts and stuff.
And this perfectly leads into what we just discussed about concepts. Unless you're a very good concept artist already, do not dabble in creating your own concept. Just pick one that you like. Usually all artists are very happy for you to recreate it in 3D. Pick whatever you like and really nice concept by somebody who's knowledgeable in the area, and just focus upon the 3D aspect, and it's gonna be a cool character like this one.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's definitely something I wish someone had told me at university. I think I was a bit too much like, oh yeah, I can concept my own things, and then I'm trying to make like a knight armor with no understanding of the functionality of armor, so I'm just kind of guessing. I'm just mix and matching different things from different cultures and different time periods. It's a whole mess, but I don't do that. Just pick a good concept. And I think this is really good. I think with this character, sorry, go. You
just quickly jumping in, if you're picking a concept from someone else's portfolio, make sure you ask them permission first and fully credit them on your own portfolio.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, should have mentioned that.
Yeah, but I think most artists probably would be, perfectly happy for you to do something for a student project. Sometimes there might be specific reasons why they can't let you do that, but I think 90% of the time you're going to be okay. So just ask. Most people are really friendly and cool, so shouldn't have any problems there. I will say with this one, it's perhaps like, I think it's a shame that it's lost a little bit of character from the original concept. Just kind of a little bit more stylized facial expression, him kind of holding that cigarette, looking really cool with his kind of like tilted gun. I like how much the yellow jacket breaks up the silhouette in the concept, and it's a shame to have lost that a little bit. And it would be a fairly easy thing to kind of fix and change with the pose if you just kind of raised it up, had it flare out a little bit more. These are like small changes, I think, that like could really like bump it up to the next level in terms of presentation. Not that your presentation's bad, I think it's really good. But it's I think that there's no reason why you couldn't have added those like small last little details. It wouldn't have been a huge amount of time. I think it's definitely worth doing. It's worth identifying what drew you to a concept in the first place. I think that concept, you could remove everything from it, just keep it as a silhouette, and it would still be very recognizable because of those nice shapes, that kind of step in of where it goes up, jacket pokes out, the big sleeve kind of makes like a big angle change and stuff. It's not just all tight to the body. I think that's often what people tend to do with 3D characters, and make stuff all quite tight to the body, and I think it's a bit of a shame to not utilize all of that.
I absolutely agree with that, definitely. This was the point regarding the silhouette. Silhouette is very, very important, and as Josh was saying, it would have been great to keep it, but even so, without this, the character came out looking really great, really gorgeous.
Yeah, no doubt. Still a great character. Yep. Yeah, I think you did a really nice job, Jordan.
Is there another piece you would like to check out from Jordan?
We can do. I think they all look pretty good. I suppose perhaps maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just worth moving on. I think they all look quite good, to be honest. I imagine it's probably just going to be a lot of sort of similar advice for the other ones, unless there's any that you particularly were interested in looking at.
No, not at the moment, because we are stretched for time and lots of portfolios to get through.
Okay, let's move on to the next person.
Okay, so this one is from LB. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And let us look at this one, which is a photogrammetry of a human head.
Okay, yeah.
So we were discussing with Josh in a couple of hours ago that a photogrammetry is really good exercise during university to learn about this way of creating characters as well. But as we were scrolling through this portfolio piece, we basically noticed that the only thing that is in this portfolio piece is the photogrammetry. So in our opinion, photogrammetry should always support a character and not try and stand alone on itself, on its own. Sorry.
Yeah, it's I don't think it's really worthy of like its own isolated post in a portfolio where you've got like a nice lineup of real-time characters and then just one little kind of 3D scan. If I was going to use photogrammetry, like utilize it for a character, I would want to see, like, say this would maybe I'd give it a pass if maybe you took it and then made it into like a actual real-time character face, like a functioning character face, but you used the photogrammetry as a base to get the proportions and things. But it still seems to have like, or just the baked light in from the original scan and all that sort of stuff. It just doesn't to me it just doesn't really seem worth it. And in general, I would say for a character art portfolio, I mostly just want to see like fully realized real-time characters. I'm not really interested in little kind of bits of props or photogrammetry and or sculpts. I guess I want to see finished characters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why we wanted to touch upon this in this portfolio, because the portfolio shows a really great variety of unique looking characters, but then there is this photogrammetry which kind of like feels like it's breaking up the flow of the portfolio. It's a really strong portfolio, and I think it would be stronger without the photogrammetry inside of it.
Yeah, but now that you've got that skill, definitely utilize it for future characters if you can. If it helps like shortcut time on something to just scan something instead of, I would kind of try to utilize any kind of shortcut that you can when it comes to making characters, providing that doesn't involve like plagiarism. As long as it's all still your stuff at the end of the day, your work. I would say, do whatever you can to make the best looking character possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Our next portfolio is Leo Varus.
Oh, yep. Okay, I got this one up. I really like this portfolio. This is so good. This honestly like makes me feel really bad about my own art skills, especially the Spec Ops cat. I absolutely love. I think it's great.
Shall we check this out a little bit in more detail? Ooh, very nice rendering.
It says here as well in the description that I'm responsible for everything from concept to final renders. That's really impressive. That you were able to concept that. I'm assuming that includes the rigging and animation, the idle animation as well. I feel like that must have been quite a big task to undergo, but really impressive. And that you managed to see it through to completion as well. I think it's great. I don't really have like a bad thing to say about it. I think it's awesome.
It is, definitely fantastic work.
Yeah, sorry I can't give any constructive feedback on that. It's just cool. I don't know what else to say.
That's the problem with really good portfolios. There's really not much to say except I love it.
Yeah, it's cool.
Really nice silhouette. I love the way that you handle the design on the legs as well. The hips, the proportions. All over really nice stuff.
Yeah. If we sort of go back to the portfolio overall, I would say there's a really clear like improvement as you kind of go through those pieces from old to new. Especially your three most recent pieces are really strong. I would consider whether you really want to include some of the older ones now. I suppose you've got to ask yourself, like, what do they add to your portfolio that's not already being featured better in one of your more recent pieces? So whether that be like hard surface design or faces or hair or something, I suppose, yeah. I mean, I think your recent 3 pieces, I think, feature such a variety of skills and all well executed. And then so it's kind of like I'm not really sure I need to see the older stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, like when people look at your portfolios, like potential employers, they will understand that it's their older work and they're just keeping it in. But realistically, for a portfolio, you want to be concise with it and make sure you're showing like only your best stuff, because we will inevitably like look through all of the other stuff as well. And if you ever got into an interview, people might be asking you questions about it and different things. Yeah. Go back to what I said originally. Yeah, just if it doesn't add anything to your portfolio, why have it in? Sometimes it can be hard to part with things, but sometimes you need to be a little bit ruthless.
Yeah, definitely. As Josh was saying, really, I don't really have much to add to that because you covered everything, Josh. But yeah, older pieces I personally would remove just because they bring down the overall quality of the portfolio, and the latest 3 to 4 pieces look really amazing, especially the last 3. It's like mind-blowingly good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, cool. I think that's all I really have to say about that. Great portfolio. Good job.
I absolutely agree with that. Moving on to Max. Takes a second.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. There we are.
Yeah, okay. So right off the bat, same feedback. If you're applying for character art stuff, I would like cut everything out besides the most recent 2 things, because I just don't really think. I suppose you've got to take my advice with a pinch of salt, because I'm speaking as someone. I'm speaking with the mindset of if I was going to hire this person for a job at Creative Assembly. So the other stuff, the sculpts, and the kind of like low poly, very stylized kind of model things.
Mm-hmm.
I just they're not really what I'd consider worthy of being in a portfolio. I definitely say the quick sculpts and things.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you spend 45 minutes on something, it shouldn't be in your portfolio.
Definitely.
I think if you think about how long it takes to make characters, I think these 2 most recent like kind of real time characters that you've done, you've probably spent a really long time getting those finished. It's kind of then it's like, why then add like the little sketch things in there, because it kind of just it's not worth it, I don't think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not for a portfolio, at least. Instagram or Twitter or wherever else, or like your ArtStation blog, fair enough. Yeah. But yeah, not in a portfolio.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was about to say as well, that they belong in blogs or ArtStation or something like that, but not in something that would be considered a professional portfolio.
Yeah. Do you want to have a look at any of these recent pieces?
Sure. Borderlands 3 or Fable?
I don't mind either one.
Let's go with Borderlands. I like that it has this shader on it, which kind of like makes it cartoony. They use it often in Dragon Ball video games.
Yeah. It's quite nice looking. Also, definitely like, it's good to see that you're clearly improving with each piece that you do, and that's good. So I can see here that it says this is part of your year 2 of your university course.
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose at this stage, you're probably not really looking to apply for jobs. I imagine you're mostly just kind of seeing through your university project. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say at this point, you're mostly just kind of focusing on learning things. Ideally, most of this stuff will be gone from your portfolio by your 3rd year, once you've finished your final major projects and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Realistically, I think with me, I did like 3 characters for my final project in university, and that was all I had in my portfolio, was those 3 characters.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, this stuff is good. Hopefully you will continue to progress. I'd say you're probably where I was in 2nd year, if not potentially a little bit better. I've don't think I was very good when I was.
Same.
I think I was, it was really my third year, especially where I really started to like knuckle down. I think, and then I just wiped all my like cruddy old first and second year work from my portfolio. But yeah, this is better than what I was doing in second year, so I definitely think you're on the right track. And if you just keep plugging away at it, I think third year you'll have hopefully some really strong stuff.
Yeah,
Definitely got a good eye for it already, I think.
on the topic, we have question in the chat regarding asked by Alan K. Should we delete the older works even if this means only 2 or 3 projects will remain? I keep them because I'm scared there will be too little to show after. It's honestly fine if you have only 2 to 3 really good works. You will get that job. You don't have to have 20 or 30 of them.
I think you'd be like hard struck to find a company that probably wouldn't, a studio characterist that wouldn't agree with that statement.
Mm-hmm.
I think most of us would much rather see 2 or 3 really good projects. That's absolutely fine.
Mm-hmm. One other thing I wanted to mention about this Borderlands character is what we discussed previously regarding UVs, or rather said low poly. This one has actually a very nice clean low poly on the face, torso and legs. But once again, as Josh pointed out, basically tries are wasted on the shoes as well as on the sleeve. All of these tries are not necessary on the shoes and the sleeves.
That's a good shout, actually. Yeah, that's exactly, if you look at the sleeves in particular, that's exactly what I'm talking about, where I'm saying like, like a waste of tries. Like I say, I don't really care about your try count as long as it's all being kind of utilized in an appropriate way and consistently. But that sleeve is incredibly dense for seemingly no reason. And just I suppose a lot of inconsistencies. Hopefully, I suppose, you can kind of take that and then apply that to your next character and potentially just consider where tries are really necessary. Generally try keep it fairly consistent. You probably want it to be obviously more dense around the face and the hands a little bit for obvious reasons, but with the rest of it, try to keep it fairly consistent. If it's not really adding much to the silhouette or the general sort of forms, cut it out, delete the loops.
Exactly. In general, how I tend to see low poly is like sort of another artwork, as in all of these lines and so on and so forth should themselves tell a story of beauty. So basically, if you have on the thighs this beautiful low poly structure, then I would like to see it exactly the same way on the shoes as well. Whilst currently on the shoes it's so dense, for example, that it unbalances, for my eye, visually speaking, the beautiful flow of the low poly. But that's just my view on low poly. I really like low poly. I'm freaky.
It's very important, I think, because I think people think as well, with like AAA being such high try counts, kind of people think it doesn't matter, but it still matters for deformation and skinning and all kinds of stuff. Like it just makes your life a lot easier if you can like model your characters with like efficient topology.
Exactly.
Having tries where you need them. So that's the mistake that I think a lot of students will make, is they think like, oh, my tutors told me that AAA games have 150k characters, so I don't need to worry about tries. But you do, because you don't know where you should and shouldn't have them yet. So you're going to put them in ridiculous areas, or just have it really isolated to one specific thing. But you'll just look at the final number and be like, oh, it's only 80k tries. That's below AAA. Like, that's not. It doesn't matter. It's and it's something that I suppose can be a little bit hard to teach.
Yeah.
Or I suppose a little bit hard to learn, because there was a hell of a lot that I didn't really know or understand about topology until I worked in the games industry and started to learn how things need to be for deformation and different things, and kind of what technical artists prefer and animators prefer. But that's it's kind of hard. And I think as well, there's a lot of really bad examples of topology out there. When you look up like topology reference on Pinterest, it's so bad. It's all wrong. So like sometimes I'm just like, man, I don't really know what to tell you guys, because I suppose if you can find like actual in-game examples of topology and stuff, like game characters used on actual video games, that's probably your best bet. I remember there used to be this huge blog of someone that just ripped all these character models from video games and then just posted all their wireframes. And I used to love looking at that. I remember I used to look at like the GTA wireframes, and I was like, wow, these are really simple. Like they're just straight loops, like straight vertical and horizontal loops, like for the arms and legs and stuff. Nothing crazy, just cylindrical. You know, maybe adding in little bits of cuts where you've got a particularly big fold that's changing the silhouette. But for the most part, they're keeping it real simple and clean and consistent all the way through.
All in all, though, it's definitely you're on the right track. Just you need to trim out the old stuff to make the new stuff really shine.
Yep, definitely.
Should
we move on?
Yes, our next
Sorry.
one. No worries. So our next one is Tadash, I hope, or Tadas. I'm not certain, sorry, about how to pronounce that. Junior character artist. There is some fantastic final university project.
Yeah, really awesome stuff. Yeah, this person's got a great portfolio.
Very clean.
Yeah, one thing maybe I would say, and this is not advice for Tadas, but just kind of general advice for university students, is maybe this is just my personal opinion coming through, but I wouldn't bother doing group environment projects if you want to be a character artist. I feel like you're just gonna. I think what Tadas has done with this environment, this kind of big statue, looks really cool. But I feel like I see a lot of people maybe just doing stuff that isn't exactly what they want to be doing for a job, and it's like, why waste your time doing that? If your tutor's giving you grief about it, then yeah, I don't know. Like, I suppose that can be a bit of a challenge. Usually, you can always fight that stuff. I feel like anytime my tutors would be like, no, you got to do this group thing. I'd be like, I don't want to do that. I want to be a character artist. Let me do characters. And I'd eventually get my own way.
Yeah, I kind of like had this too at uni.
Yeah, a lot of the time, like, I think tutors tend to be like, oh, don't do character art, don't do concept art, like, do like environment art's like the easiest to get a job in or something. And that's not true, especially if you want to be a character artist and you're just like, oh, I'm just going to do environment stuff because my tutor said it's safer. Then you're not going to do good environment stuff because that's not what you're passionate about. Don't do that. It's a bad idea. Generally, if you want to be a character artist, just try to do character art. That being said, Tadas is really good though.
Yes.
I think this kind of this portfolio, this person gets away with it because they obviously are really good at this stuff. But for the most part, I would say like you've got to be careful about where you allocate your time. You got 3 years at university. I think you got to make the most of it, because then maybe you go back home and your parents are getting really sick of you because you've not got a job yet, and they think you're just sitting on your computer playing video games all day. You're like, no, Mom, I'm making characters for games. But like, utilize those 3 years of university as best as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there any particular piece you would like to? Yes, sorry, Ben.
Sorry, just a quick question from the chat.
Yeah.
Is a finished bust okay to showcase as a high quality representation of a full character?
I would probably say I would rather see full finished characters. I think if you took a bust and at least took it through to like real time and presented it properly, that's kind of okay. But generally, I think I want to see that you've got like that conviction to see something through to the end. And that you understand all elements of character design, not just the pretty bits. You've got to do the kind of ugly and boring side of character art as well. Especially if you're a student trying to break into the industry, you've got to show us that you can do all of that. If you're already in the industry, you can maybe get away with the fact that people will be like, oh, this person's worked at Creative Assembly, so I'm sure they know how to make, real-time characters and stuff. You can lean on that a little bit when you're in the industry, but if you're trying to get in, I think you really just need to show that you can do it all. That's my personal opinion.
No,
I don't know whether you think differently, Naomi.
No, I absolutely agree with you on that. And also, I would like to add that if you see in a portfolio of an applicant, for example, only high poly sculpts, we generally don't tend to call them for an interview, because even though they may have worked in the industry, we don't know whether they have the skill or the interest in working very low poly characters. So
definitely.
So in general, you kind of like need to show, as Josh was saying, you kind of like need to show that you're willing to do the whole process.
Yeah. So I would say I would hesitantly advise against it. If you can, just try to pick like a whole character and do it, even if it takes you a longer time. Well, obviously it will take you a longer time, but I think I think you really can't like undervalue what one really good finished character will do for you in terms of getting jobs. As opposed to like maybe you could make 2 or 3 busts in that time. But I think people really at the end of the day we're hiring for character art, so that's what we want to see, is full characters.
Absolutely. So if you have maybe like 3 or 4 real-time characters fully finished in your portfolio and you have 1 bust, that's fine. But if you basically only have high poly sculpts or busts or stuff like that, that usually would not be advised.
Yeah, 100%.
Moving on, we have Yano. Ooh,
okay, yeah, cool.
I love this creature.
Yeah, it's really good. Wait, which one? The Elise one? Well, I mean, they're both good. Elise and Feast.
Yeah, they're both of them good. Yes, they're both of them good. Do you have a preference which one we should check out?
I think we should look at both of them briefly.
Briefly, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. We have got quite a few to go through. I mean, we're definitely not going to get through all of the portfolios. I'm sorry about that, everyone.
We will have other sessions in the future, so nothing will get lost by the wayside. Really nice low poly character. I really like this one. Very nice cloth, really interesting design, nice silhouette, nice low poly.
Yeah. So it's definitely like kind of checking all the boxes. I think for what we would look for. I think this is your only real-time character in your portfolio, if I'm not mistaken. So I think, this is a great example, but this is just what you need to continue doing now. This is a good character, so maybe this could be enough, because at least I suppose you've shown that you kind of have explored other kind of characters and stuff. I would maybe say as we've said before, 2 to 3 real like finished characters is kind of ideally where you need to be at, but this is definitely the right kind of direction.
Absolutely.
I suppose we just need to see more of it. There is a few things about this character that I could pick out. I'm being nitpicky, but it's just if you kind of want areas where you could maybe consider improvements in the future. I would say when it comes to creature stuff, you want to think about kind of sculpting design, if that's the right phrase to use. I don't really know what you'd call it, but so you make these big like shapes for the horn. The horns, these kind of big primary shapes that look kind of cool, and then you've kind of sculpted these little ripples on it, like lightly, almost like as an afterthought. Whereas I suppose, like to make it look, I suppose, like skin tension or something. Whereas I suppose what I would like to see is kind of a fully thought out sculpting design from finish to end. So when I say that, I mean primary, secondary, and tertiary shapes. Where it's clear how it's constructed and how these kind of fleshy parts have been formed and stuff. I think if you look at the concept for Elise, if that's how you pronounced it, there is a lot more. If you will look in the description, I think they'll link to Alessandro Rossi's page, and then it's which one is it? The Lightbox Challenge. It's the third one.
The third one.
Yeah, you might have to scroll down a little bit.
I see. Yes, it's here.
Yeah. There's a lot more kind of going on with the root of the horns there. Admittedly, it's a little bit hard to interpret because it's kind of been in a bit of a painterly abstract way. But that's the stuff that I'm talking about. Like you've got to use you're a 3D character artist, not a concept artist, but you still have to have a sort of like understanding of design. And it will develop over time. The more that you sculpt stuff, especially if you're kind of following people's concepts, you'll start to figure that out. But there's definitely like these kind of little secondary forms in there that I think are being that I think are missing from your thing. This is, again, it's a minor thing. It's just maybe where you can look to improve in the future when it comes to your sculpting. Really not huge, because I think it already is a really strong character. But
I absolutely.
there's always areas we can improve, right?
All the time, even for us. All the time we learn something new.
Yeah, never stop learning.
Yeah, absolutely. So all in all, I think this character is really great. So I would definitely say that on this character alone, you probably will get an internship somewhere. It's really, really nice. But yes, please go on. Sorry.
No, sorry. I was literally just gonna parrot what you said. It wasn't even really worth me saying anything. Yeah, it's good. Just keep doing that sort of stuff. You will find a job. Don't worry.
Definitely on the right path.
Yeah.
Okay. So
don't give up. Keep going.
This one is Feast.
Feast.
Yes.
Okay.
On to Feast.
We can. Let's have a look at this one quickly. I would say with Feast, it would have been cool to see this as a finished character. I think it seems a shame to me to get this far with something and then just not see it through. I know that retopo and real-time stage can be a bit of a drag, especially like when you're on limited time and stuff. But if you'd have finished this like you did with the previous character, the one we just looked at, then you'd have two really strong characters in your portfolio. But now you've got one and a sculpt, which it's not quite. It would have been. I think there's so many great opportunities in this character for great textures and materials and stuff. With the leather and the gold and all of these different things, and then we just don't really get to see that because it's just a high poly. I think, it's just a sculpt, right? That's mostly just what I wanted to say about that.
Really
I think
nice portfolio, though.
Yeah, seeing it through to completion would have been really cool. But it is a great sculpt.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on.
Yeah.
Simon.
Okay, Simon. So this portfolio is definitely, I think, it's the right kind of stuff that we've talked about, right? It's doing finished characters, seeing them through to completion. Again, like if you want to be a character artist, I'd maybe say don't bother with the props so much. Have props as part of a character piece. If you're doing a lightsaber, then you do like a Star Wars character, and then you can kind of show off the props that you made for that character as well, and it would be good to see them in context. But like the things on their own are probably not worth it so much. I think you've got a bit. I think you've definitely probably got a bit more to go before maybe you're like industry ready. I think that will come with time because you think you're making the right decisions. I can see from these, it just needs a little bit more time, a little bit more kind of work on the fundamentals and stuff. And that's when I say fundamentals, I wrote a little list for you guys because I'm sick of people saying learn the fundamentals and not saying what the fundamentals are. So maybe you can help me add to this if you think of anything that I haven't thought of.
Absolutely.
Naomi.
Absolutely.
I'll just go through my list of what I think the fundamentals are. So the fundamentals, I think, mainly pertain to the art side more than the technical side. And we're talking about anatomy, form, composition, material definition, silhouette, value patterning, drapery, cloth, really important. Like I said before, sculpting kind of language, primary, secondary, tertiary shapes.
Exactly.
That sort of stuff. And then obviously on the technical side of things, you've got things like topology, shaders, software proficiency. And then I suppose in between that, there's a little bit of technical and a little bit of artistic hard surface modeling. But it's those big ones like anatomy, form, composition might sound weird when it comes to character art, but it makes sense when you think about it, because when I say composition, I mean like avoid repeating patterns, big, small, smaller kind of shapes. It's like, even if you look at human proportions, it's like your upper arm isn't the same length as your lower arm.
Exactly.
There's kind of spatial differences. There's no vertical and horizontal lines on the human body. All of those kind of things. That's what I mean when I say composition. I'm not talking about like a painting kind of composition,
Yeah.
but you can apply those things. Like the Fibonacci spiral is an example of that, where it's like each thing is it like a third or 2/3, and it goes smaller and smaller. It's not just repeating
The same pattern.
equal distance, equal space and stuff. That's what I mean when I say composition.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what I think. That's what I think of when I say fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
I
Absolutely
thought that was
agree
worth
with you.
bringing up.
Yeah, absolutely. I have nothing to add to that because you said it perfectly.
Okay, great. Yeah, I feel like I hear people a lot say like, "Oh, I learn the fundamentals," but I don't know what they are.
What they are, yeah. Such an
Yeah,
abstract concept.
Yeah. Let's have a look at Elegor.
Ooh,
I think this one would be interesting to look at because this is one of Badge's concepts.
Elegor. Ooh.
Yeah. It's really cool concept. Well done, Badge, if you're still listening.
Thanks,
Yeah. So I think this is a good model. I think you've done a great job with the actual kind of model inside of stuff. The main thing that I think is bringing this piece down right now and would take you 5 seconds to fix is that procedural kind of mud that you've got over the character. If you scroll down to the texture sheet, you can see that it is kind of just a repeated pattern of mud from like a substance painter mask or something that's just been tiled. And it's quite obviously just a procedural thing. It's like a flat kind of brown, like fill layer of mud. And generally when we try to texture things, we try to keep it subtle and to areas where it contextually makes sense. Like say ground dirt, like the bottom of the skirt and the boots might have a bit of mud and dirt on them, but it kills the readability of this guy. I think it's put a lot of visual noise on areas that should have been areas of rest, like the big kind of breastplate. That should have been like a nice area of rest.
Yes.
But now we've kind of just got noise, like the modeling, and then you've got these big open spaces, which would be open spaces, but they're filled with more noise and then more noise again. So that's, I suppose, one thing when it comes to like character design, character composition is, areas of rest and areas of detail.
Whenever I see also students work on adding dirt or any kind of wear and tear on stuff, they generally tend to add it liberally everywhere, but you always need to think about the story you're telling with the dirt and wear and tear. So basically his shoes are going to be dirtier and more worn than, for example, his shoulder pads, because the shoulder pads are less likely to touch the ground and be scuffed as much as, for example, his shoes. So everything always needs to tell a story. So dirt is not universally everywhere in every place. Rust is not, or scratches are not universally in every place.
Yeah. So, I think like it'd be a 5-minute fix to just remove that, and that would immediately improve it. And then going further, like Naomi said, you could add kind of more contextual, story-driven grunge if you wanted to go further with it. But it would be such an easy fix to just turn off that layer. All of a sudden, you've got like magically the character looks like 10% better or something. So yeah, I'd say that's something you got to be careful about.
Sorry.
Yep.
I feel as though I should probably jump in with some feedback on this.
Oh yeah, please.
So just some minor points versus the concept. A lot of the fur is quite small. It's not very chunky, and because of that, you're losing a lot of the silhouette read. So, for example, the plume on the top and the one around the side of the head, the way you've angled it is just making it look really flat and close to the actual plume running right down the back of the head. So because of that, you're losing a lot of that silhouette detail that was present in the original concept, predominantly that side plume, and even things like the fur on the shoulder pads. They could have been a lot bigger and chunkier. And as an addendum to Josh and Naomi's feedback, the pose, because it's quite static, and especially with the little banner hanging almost straight down, it wouldn't have taken long for you to just give that some gravity and have that kind of pull down. Or even give it a bit more of a dynamic pose. And of course, looking at the lighting, just because the lighting, I think right now, you can keep it fairly simple with lighting. You don't need too many lights in a scene. You can get away with two or three lights. Just look at lighting theory for photography, especially 3-point lighting, and that should help you quite a bit. And I'm going to go quiet again.
Okay, thank you, Badge.
Thank you for dropping in.
Yeah, and like a lot of that stuff, like a lot of what Badge said, about lighting and the pose and the what do you call it? The thing hanging down, like the little flag thing.
Yeah.
That a lot of that stuff is like quite easy and quick stuff to do compared to how long it's taken you to make this character overall. And it's, I suppose, what happens with a lot of character art portfolios. They kind of fall flat on the last hurdle, the presentation hurdle. And it's such a shame to see that this person has obviously put a lot of work into all of the modeling and the high poly and the low poly for this character. To see those few small bits be what brings it down is a shame. So that's something that I think a lot of us all should take more care with, is that that final bit of presentation, posing, lighting, just those little bits, just a bit of texture and stuff.
Absolutely. I have also noticed this as well, that oftentimes the renders are like kind of like more of an afterthought than basically the main window dressing. It's like the main thing a store sells itself with. So it needs to be the same thing you sell yourself with, your portfolio pieces.
Yeah.
The way you present them, I mean.
Yeah, definitely.
Should we move on to one more? It's already 4:00. Or should
I'd say this will be the last one. Make the next one the last one.
Okay.
Okay.
This one will be the last one. Takes a little bit of time to catch up with us. There we go. Okay, so
all right, cool.
This one is a really lovely character artist and illustrator.
Yeah.
I definitely wanted to look at this one because I found myself in the exact same situation. So I was first an illustrator and then became a character artist. And
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I'm always happy to see other people take the same path I have taken. And
so I'd be interested to hear what your thoughts on this are then.
And I'm a huge fan of Ghibli Studios. So when I saw this artwork, I was like, oh, I have to see this one.
Yeah.
Really nice level of detail on this one. So I really love the atmosphere, the environment, absolutely everything was done really well.
It's the Ghibli piece.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just waiting for it to load up on my end. But yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm with you now.
Sorry. Always a slight delay. Other thing, so perhaps this is just a personal impression I have gotten, is that when people come from illustrative background, they generally tend to have a really nice understanding of how to use colors. So for example, all the portfolio pieces to me stand out very nicely regarding color arrangements and color combinations.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally agree. That's one of the things that I'd never even really put two and two together, that was the reason why. But when I was looking at the most recent piece, The Princess of Ambrosia,
yes,
and I was just like, the colors and the gradients, and it's just like, oh man, it's so good. Because I don't really do stylized stuff myself, and in terms of the actual shapes, like of the modeled shapes, it's quite simple, but it looks so nice because of kind of like the lighting and the color gradients and like the kind of balance of like complementary colors and stuff. It's just so pleasing to look at, even though there's not like, it's got these big open areas of just kind of rest, like nice flat bits of detail, but nice flat bits of like cloth and whatever with not too much detail, but it just looks so nice. It's really good. I really like it.
Absolutely. And this also serves as a great example. Something else that students often do is overpopulate something with detail. Detail doesn't always mean great quality. So you can have really large areas of rest with and still the character is going to look really interesting.
Yeah. It's just about, utilizing all of those kind of fundamental things like I say color theory as if I actually know color theory. It's just those two colors look cool together. That's good.
Exactly.
When you're making a stylized character, I think just put gradients everywhere. Gradients look great. I think there's definitely a lot of that here, and I think it looks really nice. I don't really have that much to say on it. I'm not much of a stylized artist myself, so I probably couldn't really give much valuable feedback to a stylized character like this, but I do think it looks really good.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Something else that I actually was told by Badge the very first time when I have joined CA is that if you have 2D artwork as well as 3D artwork, it would be much better if you separate them into folders. It's easier for
Yeah.
potential employers to check them out, because if everything is on
Mhm.
one page, it can be confusing, especially if your 3D or 2D looks similar to your 3D, because sometimes you can tell at a glance, is this 3D or is this 2D? So
Yeah.
this would be my only advice. Otherwise, really strong portfolio. Really love it.
Definitely agree with that. I would just say again, it's stuff that I've said before, but that Red Warrior thing, really nice sculpt.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real shame it's not a finished character though. It's a real shame because it's so nice. I would love to see like all the kind of material definitions on that pop and stuff, but
I agree with you.
hey, you know, it's still a great sculpt, and I think it still shows like, you know, real good kind of real good artistic eye. But yeah, I suppose it seems like this is more of a recent venture for this person moving into character art, and perhaps maybe like one or two, maybe just one more like real time character might really be that enough to make it like a really strong portfolio. Because at the moment, yeah, you know, there's clear marked improvements with each one, and obviously we're now getting to the territory of full real time characters. But yeah, you know, probably just needs to be like more than one, maybe.
Yeah.
But you know, there's nothing kind of in this portfolio that makes me think this person won't be able to land a job at some point soon. It might just be a little bit more stuff, you know.
Yeah, but
Maybe
definitely
one
on
more
the right
character.
path. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, really beautiful stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right then. Time is sadly up. So we'll have to stop here for now. Thank you all for joining us. We will have more portfolio reviews in the future, so please join us next time. Thank you so much, Josh, as well, for joining.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, thank you for hosting and doing all the hard work. I just showed up, but yeah.
My pleasure. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Cool. Thanks a lot. Bye.